Welcome to Respect the Process. I'm Kelly Hunter alongside Chris Stewart, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and we've got a big weekend.
I've heard.
You look at the list of College Game Day. Mm-hmm. Former president and current Republican candidate Donald Trump has said he's coming to the game as well. Mm-hmm. The number 2 team in the nation, who has proved to be the perennial speed bump for Alabama each year as they kind of course through the season.
Not much of a roadblock, though.
No,
speed bump.
Yeah. So, and they're all those 3 elements are going to be in Tuscaloosa, mm-hmm. and they're going to play a football game, from what we've heard.
That's the rumor that's out there. Yeah, it's a lot. And in fact, when it came out that Trump was going to be there, I retweeted and said, "Add another ring to the circus," because it's a lot. No, actually, it wasn't even that. It was with Game Day coming I said that.
The game is almost like secondary, like Sideshow Bob, because it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, tonight we're going to play a football game. It's like,
it's a lot. The great thing is, it's not like this is new.
No,
this is the kind of stuff Alabama deals with. Those players deal with. Kalen DeBoer's personality is perfect for this type of setting, which is always, as I say,
he's
steady
unflapped.
As we go.
That's what I was. You embrace the excitement and everyone's enthusiasm for this. He remains unflapped, but you can't prep this team in a vacuum. Like, there's no way to prepare for Saturday without being aware of everything that's going on around you.
He is, I think, personality-wise, perfect for this type of matchup in this type of setting. And I really am excited to see how Alabama looks in a game like this against Georgia for the first time with Kalen DeBoer at the helm, because it's obviously a very good Georgia team once again, just like all the Georgia teams that Alabama has faced over the last however many years. This rival, Georgia's always good. Georgia's never bad. I'm trying to give this backhanded compliment properly. Georgia's program is finally as good as their fans have acted like it is for years.
That's a line you love to deliver.
Well, it's accurate.
Yes.
It's accurate. Their fans have acted like for years as though they are as good as they actually have been.
But there's some numbers, though, that kind of belie that point, and they're numbers that I'm sure Kirby Smart, he is a good enough coach and a big enough man to put a lot of these seemingly in the hindsight. But, when you look at he's 1-5 versus Alabama, that his team is 49-2 since 2020, and those 2 losses both come to Alabama. Last year, Alabama advancing into the field of 4 to play for the national championship. And, you've heard, like, does Kirby Smart have a Nick Saban problem? Does Georgia have an Alabama problem? But
everybody's had an Alabama problem. Everybody has.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean that they win every time, but everybody's had people used to talk about Alabama's schedule. Oh, sorry. Alabama can't play Alabama except for A-Day. That's the only time we could do it. And that's where Alabama has been. Again, it doesn't take away at all from what Georgia's program has actually been. I'm just talking about the way their fans have acted, but they've deserved the opportunity, pun intended, to woof all that they wanted to the last few years. This has been a great program, and you win back-to-back national championships, especially in the day and age we're in. You're going to have a chance to talk about your team on a historic level. There's only a certain number of those that have won back-to-back, and Georgia's in that group, and they deserve all the credit in the world for it. My point is not about what they are now. It's about where they weren't, but pretended they were for a while.
Yes.
And simply the fact that, to their credit, they were finally able to get over the hump, but they've only done it one time against Alabama. And again, the winner of this game, they're not giving rings for whoever wins this game. That's what's different.
Yes,
for most of them. 2020, the only other year in the last, I guess, prior to the 2020 matchup with Mac Jones, Jake Coker was the quarterback the last time Alabama and Georgia met in a regular season game, right? Played in the rain in Athens. That was the game, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly, when Jake became the clear-cut starter. That became his football team. Sink or swim, Alabama was going to be whatever it was going to be with Jake Coker as the QB, much like the Ole Miss game was last year for the Tide with Jalen Milroe as the starting quarterback. So this one has huge significance. It's big. It's the biggest game in the country this week. But you know what? Next week's going to be big too. Georgia's going to have a big one next week.
From now on, within the SEC itself, every single week there will be a big game, because you look at the number of SEC teams that are log jammed in the top 10, and we're going to start knocking each other out at some point.
Well, it almost happened last week,
yes,
because Vanderbilt very easily could have beaten Missouri. And that was is Missouri as good as a lot of people are saying? We'll find out. But we know Vandy is a lot better when they're at their best. So it's a grind. Somebody asked me today, I was on a show out of Virginia, and they said, do you think you'll get 6 or 7 teams in to the playoff from the SEC? And I said, no, but not because they won't be good enough, but I don't think they'll put that many in. But I do think 5 is a legit number by the time everything is said and done. So this game helps the other team. I think the winner of this game, in my mind, barring some goofiness happening, the winner of this game will be a playoff team. But there's no guarantee that the winner of this game is going to be the SEC champion. There's no guarantee they're going to be in the playoff. And there's no guarantee that the one who loses can achieve all of those things. And guess what else? This may just be the first of 3 meetings between
that's what I was going to say. There's no guarantee that this is the only time that Alabama's going to face Georgia the rest of this season, because, as you said, the opportunity to play again in the SEC championship, to play then once we get into the field of 12. You know, you talk about it's hard enough to beat a team once. I mean, in a regular season game. Then you look at twice. Then you look at a potential third time.
Don't think that they won't. Should we get there? Let's just say Alabama wins Saturday. Georgia wins an SEC championship game rematch. Don't think they won't put them on opposite sides of the bracket.
Oh, yeah.
So that if they were to meet a third time, it's a tiebreaker and it's for the national title.
Okay, while we're talking numbers, we've got an important one, particularly with the weather that we're talking about right now, because not only are you the busiest man calling Alabama football, you're doing roofs.
Different Chris Stewart. I've heard this for years. In fact, there was panic. The first time I heard someone on air say, and I really don't remember if it was Lance or Eli that I heard years ago, say, if you're having problems, whatever, call my buddy Chris Stewart. And I thought,
no.
Don't call me.
Don't call me, no.
I don't like getting on ladders, let alone my roof.
I will tell you, this Chris Stewart, he came and took care of my house. You need to call Gutter Cap, 205-823-2212. Now that I remembered it was a different Chris. But the Chris Stewart who handles Gutter Cap is fantastic, because it about saved our marriage. My husband is terrified of heights, and we have a good pitch on our roof. And Chris got up there, put the gutter caps on. We have not had a single issue with them. They are fantastic. The gutters do not clog. The leaves are falling. We're talking about storms, wind, all of that stuff getting ready to come through. You want to call Chris to take care of this. 205-823-2212. 45% off retail price right now. You can look them up on guttercapbirmingham.com. But Chris and his guys take care of everything. Lifetime clog-free warranty. Get a hold of him. If you're tired of your spouse saying, can you not find somebody to get on a ladder? Chris will do it. Not this Chris.
To be clear, I'm the other Chris Stewart.
You're the other Chris.
He's Chris Stewart. I'm the other Chris Stewart. But we appreciate him being part of the show. We appreciate him getting on top of roofs so we don't have to.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
That Chris.
Okay, back to numbers. And we talked about Alabama potentially facing this Georgia team several times down the road, barring a blowout, the loser of this game does not have to suffer significantly.
No.
Because, yes, I would think, as we've talked about, potentially a 2-loss SEC team, depending on the 2 losses, is still going to make it. 1 loss in this game should not cause panic.
No. Shouldn't be any at all. Disappointment, you clearly... as a man who makes a lot of dumb statements, this will be the dumbest, but...
That's what this show is.
But it's better to win it than to lose it. Well, but you're not out. But you haven't lost anything other than that game.
Now, for Georgia, they could say it was a road loss against a number 4 team in the nation. So if they were to have a loss, I would think that there's a little saving grace in that. But I still think, go ahead, you're smirking.
No, I'm just saying,
smirking.
Win or lose, the conversation from both will be when it's over, we got to get better.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're saying in their locker rooms. If you are outside of the locker rooms and you're either on a message board, in a chat room, you're on a podcast like this one, the conversation either becomes, see, Bama can't win without Nick Saban, or if you're Georgia, see, they still can't beat Alabama. They're never going to beat Alabama. That's what that talk is, but that's all it is. It doesn't have anything to do with winning or losing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with winning a championship or even getting the playoffs, although it certainly benefits you to win the game.
And whether it's fair or not, come Saturday night, Sunday, people are going to be buying or selling on Kalen DeBoer.
Sure, absolutely.
And I mean, it's job performance. People are going to see, okay, we've watched him against Western Kentucky. We've watched him against South Florida. We watched him against Wisconsin. Now this is where the rubber hits the road within the conference.
Yeah, it absolutely does. We've already said, and I've got to pull this up while we're talking here, but I
thought we were taking calls or something.
We're not taking calls.
Okay.
Lines are closed as we speak.
People are already seeing if you can come get on the ladder.
I can save you that phone call. You are not going to see me on the ladder unless there is something on the ground that I am trying to get away from. Okay. That is the only way. What I will say is that after Alabama takes on Georgia, you're going to go to Nashville, where obviously you're going to be favored. You should win, but it's not the given that we thought it was a week ago. And you may have to expend more energy than you thought you had to in that game. South Carolina will be a formidable opponent that you better not look past, given the fact that Tennessee will be next.
Yep.
And then after you go to Tennessee, you got Missouri at home. Before you go to LSU, yes, you have Mercer mid-November, but then it's at Oklahoma and Auburn at home. Now, the last 3 weeks on paper today look less challenging than what the next 6 weeks are, but there's still nothing in there beyond Mercer where you look at and go, okay, you can sleepwalk through and come out just fine. Because I think Vandy's every bit, from what I saw with my own eyes, Vandy's better than South Florida and might be able to give Wisconsin a game.
Yeah.
Current Wisconsin, not what Wisconsin normally is or what Wisconsin may even be at the end of the year. All I'm saying is there are challenges and potential pitfalls every week, even if Alabama finds a way to beat Georgia in Tuscaloosa again. Okay,
looking at the game itself, looking in terms of position, is there one area that you say this is something that's going to be critical as we watch the game?
If it's as close a game as most people anticipate it to be, I think James Burnip can be a major difference maker in this contest with what we've seen him, and hope that he doesn't have to do it often. Yeah. It'll mean the offense is doing its job. But if James Burnip is having to punt, his ability to still be someone who literally flips the field and field position could be huge. Pinning Georgia deep, making sure that they don't get a short field to work with, with a bad kick. If he is who he has been, that's a big plus for Alabama in that ball game.
Has Miller earned the confidence in people that down in and down out, he is the guy who is making good decisions right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna make a mistake because he's not perfect. Nobody is, and Georgia has the ability to force you into a mistake. You just can't make a fatal mistake. You can't have him throwing 2 and 3 picks in the ball game. I think it was Texas. They had a couple, maybe one that was really his fault, or I can't remember the specifics. But you got to protect the ball. You can't give them free possessions. You can't give them free yardage that would come in from a bad punt.
Yeah.
Or from a turnover that gives them the short field to work with.
Or a snap over the head.
Yeah, you can't give them, a dozen penalties, 8, 9, 10 plus penalties in that game. If you're who you were just from a turnover and from a penalty standpoint against Wisconsin, I like this team's chances. If you turn it over like you did against South Florida, that's potentially a much different ballgame. That's not going to be, I don't care how good you are in the fourth quarter, that ain't going to be a 42-10 win for your squad if you turn it over like that against the Dogs.
What are your thoughts on having a bye this early in the season?
I like it. Nick Saban used to always say that one day off was good, but 2 days off was almost like getting a week off.
Yeah.
Because of how much better it was for you and from your recovery standpoint. And I don't know that Kalen DeBoer gave his guys 2 days off during this mix, but it's something that allows you to much more comfortably take 2 weeks off. What is it? Before you play, when is the next bye week? I'm trying to find it. I guess it would be.
Was it after? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think because here.
Yeah, they're running
I start
together
thinking
on
of the traditional. When did
No,
we
it's after
traditionally-
Missouri.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
after Missouri and before LSU. So you can more comfortably get 2 days off because you're resting, but there's work to be done
Yeah.
to get ready for Georgia. But still, I think it's good for what it does from a recovery standpoint to have a little time off and also to kind of recalibrate. You've gotten started. You've gotten through camp. You've gotten through 3 games that while it presented its challenges, it's not the toughest 3-week stretch you're going to have.
No, but I think you're starting to see what works and what doesn't
Yeah.
work, particularly with the personnel that you are now getting to know and see in game situations.
And it allows you to revisit the things that you may have put in small measure that you knew you weren't going to use in the first 3 weeks.
Do you think
three
Georgia
ball
had to
games.
use more than they had wanted to against Kentucky, or because Kentucky's one of those teams that they're going to get Georgia's goat when they have the opportunity?
Here's the thing. I would be very surprised if they intentionally held back.
Yeah.
At the same time, I would be really concerned from the Georgia perspective if we fired all of our bullets and you only got that type of margin. It's why I think Alabama's going to win the football game. I think both teams have good defenses, and I think both will have their successes on the defensive side. But I think Alabama has more explosiveness than does Georgia, and a mistake by the Georgia defense will be exploited more by Alabama's offense. I think there are more home run potential opportunities for the Alabama offense than there may be on the Georgia side. I'm not saying Bama can bust coverages left and right and they'll be just fine, but I think Alabama's speed, the ability to run the ball effectively, the fact that they've gotten the line looking more like they expected it to look when they left the tunnel originally for pregame warm-ups against Western Kentucky, all of that factors into this being a much more dangerous offensive Alabama team, and that Bama defense is better than we thought it was when we started the season. If they can continue to be that and show improvement, they've got a chance to do very well on Saturday.
And by and large, healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're always going to be beat up. You're always going to be banged up. The issues that are there with the line are still there, but they're able to, at this moment anyway, play through them and still have their best options available to go in the game.
With all of the circus element of Saturday, particularly with former President Trump, current Republican candidate, and every other notable person in college football going to be there on Saturday, how does that impact your job? Like, do you have to, is there anything different in terms of moving around the stadium or being able to do anything?
It's a good question. I don't know that it's a direct tie to the things you just mentioned, but we're not going to be on Champions Lane for our pregame show. I think part of that is concern that with all the added security, it may take a little longer for us to transition from outside to inside the stadium to keep our broadcast seamless, even though there are a lot of recorded elements that buy you time to get in there. I think that's one of the things they're wanting to be careful with. Another piece is we've got a bigger name celebrity, I think, than we normally have for the celebrity stage where we actually do our show, and it normally leads into a concert. Lainey Wilson, big country star, is going to be there, and expecting more people there, and I think that creates – she needs more time for setup and things like that. I think that impacts. I may be completely wrong on this. I'm just giving you guesses, nothing that I've been told definitively of what causes it. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people in a small area, and you're right. It will make things easier, if not better, if not more enjoyable. It will make things easier for us to go and set up originally and begin our broadcast 3 hours out and operate all of that from inside the stadium. So I'll get there about the same amount of time beforehand, but other than not going up to put my bag down in the booth and then come back out to be on stage, I will simply go directly into the stadium once I get there, 1:30, 2 o'clock. Yeah. And once I get inside, I'm staying. Yeah. No, inside.
I just was curious because, I know that this is there are a lot of logistics for this weekend.
And it would have been that way even if Trump wasn't coming there.
And thankfully, the weather looks like it is not going to be an issue. Yeah. It's going to be a little soggy.
Hopefully, enough sunshine and wind to dry it out for the most part. But, yeah, it's going to be a wet few days.
I know. But, hey, at least a good weekend. And the crowd there is going to the atmosphere, as I can imagine, is ramping up and will just be absolutely electric by Saturday.
Yeah, as you and I visit right now, I'll be heading to Tuscaloosa in just a little while. We'll have Hey Coach and Coach DeBoer's radio show tonight, and I have no doubt that the show itself, even though, Wednesday night with a Saturday game is a day further away than it has been in years past, but I think it's still going to have almost a game day weekend feel to it, and all of the buzz, the excitement, the things that are going up, on the quad and around Champions Lane, and again, game day with Coach Saban on campus for the first time as a broadcaster. He's been back every weekend, thankfully, with the one 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, whatever it was, as the dedication of Saban Field. But this will be different, and yet people are still going to want to see him and see him take part in that show.
I think that will be an interesting element to Saturday.
It'll be fun. It will be.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be just...
if Joe Namath is the guest picker, who we don't know who's going to be yet. I've seen some different...
thoughts and ideas.
Different ideas on who it could be. But, anytime Joe Namath is there, it still has a buzz and excitement, I'm older than you, but people our age, similar, that remember Broadway Joe or, the star Joe Namath, even though our memories of him, frankly, weren't, the Super Bowl in '69, but we know who he was historically, and when he was Joe Willie for the Crimson Tide, it's special.
I remember
name.
I think that the last time I saw him, this was obviously a long time ago, he stopped by practice at the Orange Bowl. They were practicing one day down in Miami, and he stopped by practice. And you went to, it was like that needle scratching across the record, that everybody stopped, came over, team, media, everybody, because, he has that ability.
He's one of the few that you knew from looking at Coach Saban, it was a big deal for him too. I used to see that with him with Snake and with Joe Namath. All these guys that have come through that were people that he idolized and respected, whether it was Bobby Bowden, who obviously was, I guess by definition was a former Alabama player. But it was never quite the same as when one of those NFL legends with an Alabama tie would show up, and it was always a big deal for Coach Saban. He still had work to do, and he stayed as focused as possible, but when Joe Willie was in the house, there was a different smile on Coach Saban's face.
That's cool. Okay, as of this moment, the spread is still Georgia minus the 2.5 with a total of 48.5.
You're going to have to bring in Lance for that.
I know.
I'm at 48.5 being the number of points scored. Is that right? The collective number of points scored.
Yeah. The half always interesting. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's right. Look, and part of that is done, I know, to try to make the betting more even.
Right.
That's part of why you do the line that way. And you don't have to worry. Bama fans are going to bet on Bama anyway. That's how that'll play out. I don't know enough about that to get into breaking that down. I just know both teams are really good. It should be a very close game, but I think the result is going to be what we've seen the last several meetings, and that's Alabama finding a way to get it done.
6:30 kickoff on ABC. Number 2 Georgia coming to number 4 Alabama. Y'all go on the air at what time on Saturday?
With it being a
6:30-ish
6:30-ish kick, we are going on the air at 3:30.
Okay.
Yep.
And always we can find you at chrisstewart.online.
That's right.
Crimson Tide Sports Radio Network, of course, all day Saturday, and not doing roofs this weekend, but we can always trust our friend Chris Stewart.
I'm the other Chris Stewart, Chris Stewart.
Of course, if you need him, of course, 823-2212, that's 205-823-2212 with Gutter Cap, and Chris Stewart will take care of you. Give him a call, and then, of course, this Saturday, we can count on you to take care of us. I'm guessing I'm in the minority who will not be in Tuscaloosa that day. But
you may as well come on down and tailgate. Everybody else is. It'll be a party.
I get annoyed looking for parking, so that would
rule you out.
That would be my undoing. But we want to thank Scott Forrester for always making us look better than we should, and to Melton for not sending my calls to voicemail, and for Reed Taylor for keeping the lights on here for us. Everything you need and want for Cover Crimson, they'll take care of all your Crimson Tide needs. Our daily workhorse, the next round every day and on demand, and Disrupt Media for, I think, pretty much anything sports that you're looking for. For Chris Stewart, who will be taking good care of you on Saturday.
Roll Tide.
That's right. For Kelly Hunter, which is me, and for Chris Stewart, which is
Say
him.
Goodnight, Gracie.
And for everybody else, have a great week. We'll see you next time.